Hello everyone, I am Rod and I am the game design instructor for the Academy of Entertainment Arts over at Dixie Hollands High School. If you are one of my students, it's Mr. Flowers to you, and welcome to this video tutorial. Alright, so welcome back. What we'll be doing today is making the curtain. We're not going to animate the curtain just yet, but we should be able to get the curtain up and ready. So first things first, let me jump into my control panel and I'm going to reference all of this stuff. Let me put this back down to the origin. And don't worry, like when we render this out, you should be able to see everything just fine. So it's okay that it's below the grid. You can't see it for now, but that's fine. I'm just noticing this little hole here. I'm not so worried about that. This is just for simple production. So I'm going to click the R down on here. Ding, 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 ding. So I can't accidentally grab these while I'm editing. You could also turn them off if you need to see your grid. I'm going to turn them back on. The curtain is going to be fun because we get to do some fancy stuff with it. First thing we need is a curtain rod, and that doesn't have to be too extreme. We just need a place for it to go. I'm going to go up to Create. I'm going to come down to Cube, so Polygon Primitives Cube, drop that in. The subdivisions doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is, for the width, do 512 across. The overall depth and everything with the curtain rod, let me try 32. Wow, that's huge. Just do 8. That's plenty. It doesn't have to be fancy because this guy is going to be up here, mostly out of the way from our view. So front view, and I'm just going to hold X and just snap this so that it is flush with the top. I'm going to go into my side view. That's going to be hard to see because from our side view, we can't really see where our planes are because they don't show up on a side view because we're looking right on the edge of them. But we can use our door as a reference, and we know that Z is front. So I'm just going to pull this back to about there. I'm not worried that the curtain is going to float, and I'll actually just center it there. I'm not worried that this is floating because we're not really going to see that it's floating. If you wanted to, you could put boards back here to kind of keep it, make it look like it's attached. But the way our camera is going to sit, it's going to be here-ish, and then it's going to rotate just enough. So we're not really going to see this. We'll have the curtain will be out here, so we won't really see that either. I might actually make the curtain a little bit wider than the stage just to cover. Now with this selected, I'm going to name this curtain rod. So curtain rod. And I will give this a texture. What are we using for the wood? We're using the blend, I believe. So change blend 3 to curtain rod texture. And I'm just going to use the wooden texture that we have here. So let's jump in, grab the file. Wooden floor, diffuse. If it doesn't show up, one of two things has happened. Either the texture that we just tried to apply did not go into the blend that we created, or the blend is not applied. So first things first, I'm going to right click on the object, go down to my assign existing material, and I'm just going to reassign my curtain rod. If it does not pop up, that means it's not assigned. So I'm going to go down to material attributes. Let's try that again. Blend, curtain rod, scroll up, and it did not apply. So we will just hit it again. Sometimes Maya gets a little bit of a bug. There we go. Now this is not the ideal. Again, we're going to have to do some texturing on here, or adjusting of the UVs. So UVs, UV editor, grab the rod. And we could go and do a custom texture in Photoshop, but that's not going to be necessary because we're not really going to see this very well. So I'm just going to do a automatic projection. And it's going to create some basic UVs for this. And if we look at this, we do have a good wood grain just kind of going across, stretching. I'm not going to see back here, and I'm not going to see anything up there. So in this case, we really should, for common practice, sew all these together, but we're never going to really see any of that stuff. So if you don't sew these together, it's not the end of the world. Because all this stuff, again, we would never see it. So in this particular case, I'm really tempted to not, but for ethics, I will do it for ethics. The ethics. So grab you, polygons, move and sew. These I can just do a simple unwrap, so move and sew. Next one on the list, we'll move and sew. Yeah, I'll put the caps there. Actually, I won't put the caps there. I'll put the caps right there. If you didn't see it, I'm clicking on the bottom, middle, move and sew. And then this one there, move and sew. UVs, let's do a layout. Pink. There we go. Now this is kind of stretched, but we're not going to see it again. Select this, right click. I will go ahead and add on the bump map. So material attributes, and close my UVs. Throw a bump map on there. Hit the little arrow to go back into the bump map file. Wood floor, bump map. It's kind of extreme, so we will go into place 2D texture. Actually, we don't have to adjust that part. We want to adjust the depth. So file 9. I mean, mine's file 9. Yours might be a little bit different. Depth, I'll pull down. And 111 looks fine. And it is a little shiny at a certain angle, but I don't think we're going to have to worry. Oh, yeah, from right here, it's very glossy. So I will go back. So right click, material attributes. Sorry, I had a bit of a glitch. You can see the my eccentricity ended up having a file attached to it by accident. So I'm going to have to break the connection there. Ah, that's nicer. You can right click on a node, by the way, and you have all these. You can set a keyframe, you can break a connection, create a attribute or whichever. Alright, so eccentricity, I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to take a look out from here and see how shiny it is. Bring it down. Roll off. so it's not super shiny. We're not going to see all that detail anyway. It's just for posterity's sake, I suppose. So now we have the curtain rod in place. We need the actual curtain. So first things first, let's create a new layer for the curtain rod. And what I'm going to do, let's see. I'm going to do curtain rod layer. So there's that. And then I'm going to do the actual curtain. So I'm going to reference this. Create polygon plane. And this one I'm going to do the same size as I did the wall, which is going to be in my inputs 512, 256. And I'm going to have more depth on here than I think we have by default. Let's do, right now there's 100 cuts. I don't need that many cuts along the height. So I'm going to remove those, so just one on the height. And across the width, let's do 20. That's good. And what we're going to do is this. Let me go ahead and pull this up so we can see it. And all we're going to do is going to hit F10, sorry. I'm going to do F10. I'm going to hit Q on the keyboard, so I just have my little arrow, and I'm going to select every other line or edge. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit W on the keyboard, and it's up to you if you want to pull up or down, but I'm going to pull up. And you can see we have a waviness already. It's already a curtain. I'm going to hit Object Mode. I'm going to grab this curtain, and I'm going to name it, let's see, if we were on the stage facing out, that would be stage right. So this will be curtain stage right. And I will rotate this guy 90. And let's see, we were 256 across, so 128 in the height. We'll put it up there. And I will come this way, and I'll just put this back up against my curtain rod. Now we don't want this to go through the curtain rod because that wouldn't make any sense. So I'm going to pull it out just outside the curtain rod. And if you see any spots where it's kind of pinching through, you can just pull it out. Make sure it's just not touching. Jump into my view here. And it is going to hover just a little bit ahead of it. That's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the curtain rod. Oh, I have to unreference it. I'm going to take the curtain rod. I'm going to set it down just a little bit behind the curtain. And the reason for this is I'm actually going to have a runner bar on the top up here. We'll make those later. We're not actually going to see the runner bar, but I just want to be a little bit above because we can hide the runner. I'm going to grab my curtain. Oh, let me put my bar back on reference so I don't accidentally select it. Grab my curtain, and I need this to be half as wide as it currently is. So I'm going to go into my scale X and do 0.5. That's simple enough. Hold X on the keyboard. W brings up your widget. And just kind of move this back. There. That's one curtain half. Control D will duplicate. Pull this over to the other side. Make sure that you name this one. This is going to be stage left. And I will make sure that this is lined up. So there's the curtain. It's okay if it touches. I'm going to pull this one forward just a little. Pull this one forward just a little. Just so they overlap in the middle. Now, one other thing I want to do. Right now, our curtain looks kind of jagged. There's a trick that we can do with our normals. Normals are, you can think of them as little hairs that kind of stick up off of your plane. So any flat surface, flat face has a normal on it. It usually sticks up right in the middle. If I go to Display, and I go down to Polygons, and then I go to Face Normals, you can see, and there are vertex normals. There are normals on the edge of a vertice or a vertex. And if I zoom in real close, you can kind of see these little green. You might not be able to see it on my camera because of the recording software. There's a little green, little micro hair right there. And there's one on the face of every single one of these. There's also one on their vertices and all that stuff to kind of control the lighting of these. I'm going to go back up to my display, polygons, and I'll just uncheck my face normals. What we can do, instead of this looking like it's jagged, is we can go up to Mesh Display, and we can come down to Soften Edges. And what this will do is it'll make these look a little bit less jagged, just a tad. That should be fine. And then our curtains, we're going to give them a Lambert. And that Lambert, material attributes, is going to be named curtains. Texture. And you could go into Photoshop and create a curtain texture, which would look a lot nicer than putting a shader on. But before you do that, you are going to want to make sure that your UVs are lined up. I'm just going to do a planar. So UV, it should still be checked in Z, but you can hit the checkbox to make sure that we're still in the Z axis. Hit apply. Close, grab this one, UVs, planar. Okay. And then Photoshop, I'm just going to create a very simple curtain texture. So new document. I'm going to make this in square units, and I will do, I'll do 2048, 2048, 300 on my pixel depth, my resolution. If your computer can't handle that, you can go lower. And I'm just going to name this T for texture underscore curtains. I don't need this background layer, so I'm just going to double click to unlock it. I'm going to do color. And here you can kind of choose your color. I'm going to do, I want red. Actually, in my storyboards, I have my curtains blue to kind of offset the fact that I have a red brick. So I'm going to do red, my blue color instead. Let me drag these to a blue color that I like. Just drop that in. Look, real simple, right? You could just add a shader, but I'm going to add speckles to this to kind of give it a cloth sort of look. And I'll probably add some other features to this as well. So what I'm going to do, I might need two colors, but I'm going to go up. Let me keep this one. I'm going to hold Alt, click and drag that down, just turn this one off. That way if I need to come back to it, I can. Filter, I'm going to go into Filter Gallery, and I'm going to zoom out. That's Control minus. We have a lot of options in our gallery. I can go down to Texture, and we do this like texturized paper. Patchwork is too patchy. Grain. I kind of like grain. How about, oh, that's too much. That's way too much. So texturize, let me see my scaling. Relief. So scaling has to do with how big each patch is, and the relief has to do with its depth, how far in or out it pops. And there's a lighting source, so you can change this light source, top, down, left, right, bottom. You can invert it. It's hard for me to see at that depth. Let me zoom in. Let me try my lighting from the left. I like that. It kind of gives a natural line going up and down. And I will hit OK. So that'll give our curtain some texture. And so File. Actually, I'm going to create a bump map for this. Let's do bump. Or the bump one has to be set to black and white. So black and white, hit OK. We're going to push up its levels just a tad. That way we can kind of see the fibers in the cloth. File, save as, curtain PSD, we need that. And then we're going to need this to be curtains underscore B for bump. And I'll change this to a targa. Save. Save out the other one. This one's going to be the diffuse channel. Underscore D for diffuse, targa. Let's go ahead and texture this guy. Material attributes. First things first, let's grab the curtain color. File, T underscore curtain diffuse. So there they are. You can kind of see the little ridges in it, which is nice. And then I'm going to give it, and you can, if you really want to, like if this was not done well enough for you, like you wanted more, you could change its layout on the patchwork and all that stuff. So you could do repeats and all that. I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to go back into my material attributes, bump offset, or my bump mapping. And there is a diffuse channel here. You could just plug it into there and you can overlay a color, but yeah. I never really use that in here. Where's my file? Here's my file. curtain, add that on, and this is way too extreme, so we're going to come up to this little arrow here and drop our depth down. Let me pick an angle so I can see. That looks like rock. I don't want to be that extreme, so let's make this 0.012. Zero 0.011. It's just subtle, but I think it'll work. And it is not glossy because we chose it to be a Lambert, so it's going to be pretty flat. Okay. Right click, object mode, go back in. So that is setting up our curtains. The next two videos will be making the props. We also have to make our character, Mr. Eggy Whites, and then we will set up the animation nodes to control the curtains, and we will set up the animation for the character. Okay, I will see you next time.